episode 198 of Live Drawing. We are here in a post-HeroesCon 2026 world, and we're going to try to draw something fun, and I'll give you a little recap. I'll show off some of the stuff I got. So it's kind of what we'll do. Got a small stack of stuff here, but we'll see if anybody else decides to pop in. Obviously, this is a nice little sketch that Joe Staten, who's a brilliant artist who's drawn every comic you can think of. Green Lantern, Superman, he's done Batman, he's done Spider-Man, he's done all kinds of works at Charlton and other books, other companies. He was the art director at first, and the first comics in the 80s, and they published tons of books that I enjoyed, from Grimjack to Nexus to E-Man, Michael Mauser. They did just tons of cool books, and I really appreciated his work a great deal. And he's a very versatile artist who's had long runs. One of the longest runs on any book he had was on Scooby-Doo. So he has a versatile line. He's able to exaggerate and draw in ways that not everybody can. And it's one of the things I really appreciate about his work. And I can show you, this character is Nova Kane. It's actually what would go on to be the co-lead character in E-Man, if you ever read the E-Man comics. And he sells these for something like $25 at a show. They're just little head sketches that he pre-does on these colored pieces of paper. He had some of his most famous characters. So anytime you see Joe at a show, I highly suggest popping over to his booth and picking up something. These are the books I got signed. I got a handful of books signed that I brought with me, and most of them were Charlton's, because Charlton contributors are few and far between, it shows these days. Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, who did all of the style guides for DC Comics in the 70s, and it was used all the way through up until the 90s, basically, when they revamped everything to kind of combat the image look. It was the house style. If you bought a cup, if you bought any sort of merchandise, you saw Jose Luis Garcia Lopez artwork, shirts, underoos, there would be any myriad of things that you would find at a store outside of comics, and that would lunch boxes, a famous one. But he did a handful of Charlton comics, even though if you ask him, he didn't know they were Charlton comics. He was working for a studio in South America, and they would have him do these stories, send them out, and he didn't know necessarily where they were being published until later. And this is one of his few horror stories that he did. And then this is a romance comic that he did. And I didn't know if I'd get to see him because the lines are so long at HeroesCon. That is one thing that's different. If you're an A-list creator, you're going to have lines like San Diego. So Chris Campana actually was sitting next to him. So I slid this book over to him, and Chris got this signed for me, which, if he sees this, thank you again, Chris. And I went over a little later and got this romance comic that is kind of like a women's lib story of the day with David Cassidy on the front cover. Had Jose sign that for me, and he was just doing it for donations to the Hero Initiative, which was awesome. To go with that Joe Staten sketch, I got this Joe Staten Scary Tales cover, which I always love this cover. The space helmets and a big monster, and Joe was happy to sign it for me. A lesser known Charlton contributor is Bob McLeod, because he just inked this one cover. And I brought this over to his booth, and he was kind of indifferent to it, but he was pleasant, polite. He was more excited for the other thing that I'll show you in a little bit, which was a piece of artwork I brought. And then I was able to add more people to the Marvel Holiday Special. Now, I am doing a full recap video with my new phone, because my phone... I'm going to stream this one from yourself. Is that better? Do you plan to stream it for? Yeah, I do plan to have a longer stream today, because we're going to try to finish this birthday card for my mother-in-law, which is, it's something I still do. I still draw greeting cards for people from time to time. So we're going to be on the normal length tonight. Good to see you, Daniel. This was my first comic. For people who don't know, the Marvel Holiday Special. I've been taking it around and getting it signed by anyone who worked on it. And we've gotten quite a few signatures over the years. Unfortunately, some of the creators aren't with us anymore, but I was able to get other stuff signed by them, and I keep the pieces together, so it's like a little mini collection. But at this show, we had the first one being there's a Thor story in here written by Tom DeFalco and drawn by Sal Buscema, but there's a beautiful pinup by Ron Frenz and Pat Olive. It's just an absolutely gorgeous pinup of Thor at Christmas time in Times Square in New York. No, at the Rockefeller Center, excuse me. That's where the statue and the ice rink is and everything. And it was penciled by Ron Frenz and Pat Olive. And Ron was super, super busy this weekend, so I only got to speak to him briefly when I saw him a couple times. And but Pat, who was also busy, but he had a little time on Sunday morning when I was able to chat with him, and I actually thanked him for that story we talked about last episode, where I was at Pittsburgh Comic Con around 2000 and let's say 2002, 2003, somewhere in there. And Ron Frenz, and Tom DeFalco took probably a half hour, not exaggerating, to just look at my art, talk to me, give me some pointers, and that was just something really nice that they did. Not bad when you get spot illustrations on here where they repurpose that Marvel Comics Presents cover by John Byrne, and then you've got a what you call it, a spot illustration by John Buscema. Good to see you, Patrick. And then the next signature I was able to get was Mike DiCarlo. He was the inker on the Spider-Man story. Richard Starking still occasionally does shows, and so does Steve. So we've got some people still left. But Danny, Ron, and Mike, I've got all their signatures now. And there's Danny, and then there's Ron, and there's Mike. So got just some of the letterer and the colorist. Rurik Tyler is like one of those mysterious figures to me. I loved his work in this book and then in the series What the? And this piece when I was a kid right here that he did on duo shade paper was one of my favorite pieces for years. If this ever came up for sale, it's one of those things where I would spend a stupid amount of money on. I don't know, it's just fun. I love it. It's got some of my favorite characters in it. But yeah, we were able to get book signed, and you know, contrary to popular belief, some creators charge, some don't, and it's not just because I have a pro badge. Actually, I paid for plenty of the signatures that you see. I don't ask for freebies. Someone says it costs X, I pay X, or I don't get it. We'll do a little drawing, and then we'll go back and look at some of the artwork, unless you guys want to just plow through all the stuff. But this is a birthday card I'm doing for my mother-in-law, and it's a self-portrait of me, a little cartoon me. We got a little cartoon Bruce, and then we got a little cartoon Camille. So. You know, if folks haven't been to Heroes Con, it is a big comics only show, so you're not going to see, you know, the celebrities. You're not going to see, you know, the professional cosplayers, but you know, it's gigantic. Like there was just so many artists. Like I actually had trouble finding some people, and it took me multiple times walking around. As you know, I've done more than one show in my life, so I kind of know my way around. But like even in this convention center, it was just all comics and artwork, and there were artists, you know, I hadn't seen in years. There were all kinds of creators that I was just happy to see. I am making like a full recap video because with my new phone, I took pictures and I took video, so I'm trying to have that done by the end of the week to post. It's easy to do a self caricature. Hey, Martha, it's good to see you. At Heroes Con, there was what's like an independent island where it was all indies, and like Jim Rugg and Don Simpson and all kinds of folks were there, and Tom Sholey. I think that I think you would have enjoyed it. Well, showed off the books. I could have brought, seriously, when I looked at the guest list, I could have brought like a big stack of books to get signed, but I had to really limit it because like I had to bring all of my work stuff in 2 suitcases. This is a nicer version than I draw usually of myself. You've seen the gargoyle self-portrait. Hey Pat, yeah, we could probably work something out. It's enough lead time. I enjoy drawing sharks. I do. I actually had like a young art student come up to my booth and was asking me about techniques for drawing sea creatures, which was interesting. Ended up just giving her a copy of my book and the field guide. She was pretty excited. Not a regular question. Usually the questions are like, huh, how do you do this in comics? And it's it was very specific. 2 suitcases and stay underweight. But I did find out, and this is, I don't know, they'll probably take this away too, even if I just utter it. They don't weigh your carry-on for American. So the only, you know, restriction is you got to be able to lift that sucker over your head and get it into the overhead bin. And believe me, my carry-on was what I put all of my for sale books into, and it was just. Thanks, Patrick. I appreciate that. The tree situation is in the video too, so there's a little chunk about that. I also have one commission that I had to bring home with me that was for somebody at Heroes that I didn't get done, so got to do that, and then we're going to be finishing off the last of those commissions for the Kickstarter, which for the fulfillment of that we've got about a dozen to go, and it's mostly my pals because I know you guys would be cool, and you guys, and then the ones that aren't just my friends are people who ordered big pieces of artwork or the giant thank you in the sand, which I'll be hiring a drone photographer to help me facilitate finishing those rewards off. I'll send in their books, and then I'll mention to them in the boxes that'll be coming digitally to them. I also fulfilled the one to Uncle Bill, who was kind enough to come to Heroes and hang out. He got the ice jump Ian level, and a long time ago we filmed me jumping into 37-degree water, and I put it to a little music, and we'll post that up on Facebook and YouTube and stuff. See, it's much kinder than my usual drawing of myself. Usually when I draw myself, like it's that little weird little gargoyle man. I don't need my mother-in-law getting her birthday card and then asking my wife, "Is he okay?" I do need to give myself at least some wrinkles. I look like I'm a fresh-faced kiddo here. In my recap video of the convention, I didn't film in some places and I didn't take pictures because I felt like it was either going to be covered plenty on other people's things or it was not appropriate. Like there was a time where I was actually standing in line to catch the shuttle for the airport from the airport to the convention center. And I'm standing with Chris Claremont and Kevin McGuire and Ann Nesenti and Kieran Dwyer, who I sat next to on the shuttle all the way there and got to have a very nice conversation with. And he was an extraordinarily nice guy. One bit of information that you may want for the Kieran Dwyer fans out there. I mentioned his Elseworlds Batman story, and he said that that is probably his favorite thing that he ever did. So if you ever see Elseworlds Finest in a back issue bin or for sale, and you're interested in seeing an artist what they consider their best work, and just looking at it, that's what he told me was his favorite work and what he considers his best work. So I always find that interesting, and then I will look at pieces with different eyes when I hear that aspect of it, when they say, this is what I think is my best work. I don't want to overdraw this, so I'm just going to keep it very much just to the lines, because we're going to add some quick watercolors to it. We inked one figure. Do you want to look at some artwork? We'll start with the stuff that I brought to get signed. I have a page from Deathmate Blue here. It was penciled by Jim Calafiore and inked by Ralph Reese. And I took it and got it signed by Jim at the show. He was there. Ralph already signed it up here. See, Deathmate Blue, page 10. Jim said he didn't even remember it. Here's one that my Boston family will remember well. I've always collected these posters of the shows, and I have one from every show of the old Boston Comic Con. This was the only one, other than the first one, which I didn't have signed. And while like many of these artists are still with us, and I thought it would be appropriate just to get it signed by the artist who did the poster, and that was J.G. Jones. And I'd actually never met J.G. Jones prior to this show, so it was really neat to meet him, talk to him about watercolors, and he was really happy that he hadn't seen this poster since 2011, and he said he liked it and was happy to see it again. And autobiographically, I was at this show, and for the old Boston Comic Con peeps, it's cool to relive that. These are pages that I brought with me. Like I said, I bought this page off of Joe Rubenstein at a Rhode Island show many years ago. Here's a 90s Superman blue page, penciled by Ron Frenz and inked by Rubenstein. And I had Ron sign it for me. I think his signatures were $10 a piece, which I thought was reasonable, especially on on a piece of artwork. I'm happy to just have the artist's signature on it. Here's another one with a local tie. This was a Batwoman page that I bought off of Jack Purcell, local inker artist extraordinaire. And I love the beginning and the end of the run of Batwoman on the New 52. Um, when George hopped on this book, I thought it started cooking again, and I really liked the story. So I'd never gotten to meet George's Genty until this show. I talked to him early one day during the VIP hour, and yeah, we just had a nice conversation about this book and how he felt about working on it, and he felt that we're really starting to cook too. And they just capped the series, and they decided to not keep going. But he appreciated that to hear about it and to see somebody who liked it, and you know bought it from Jack. I think the year it came out. This was a gift from Camille. It's a Black Panther page by Chris Sprouse from the Ta-Nehisi Coates run. It's got Misty Knight and Luke Cage in it, and it's of course got Black Panther. And it was signed by Chris Sprouse when it came, but I got to meet Carl Story at the show this weekend, and he was happy to sign it for me and see the artwork, and it was super nice. And like I said, when I saw Bob McLeod earlier, he was kind of ho hum about the old Charlton book, but he was happy to see this piece of artwork, I guess, because he worked with Dick Giordano and they were friends. And yeah, he looked at it real close and talked for a minute, and yeah, it was nice to add Bob's signature to his page. And I'm a budget collector, so I think this page was like, even when I got it, I think it was like 35 or $40. And it's by Dick Giordano and Bob McLeod, and two legendary mainstream comic creators. So this weekend, that fake cut up to Osama bin Laden. Oh, you mean the anniversary of that, Patrick? Yeah, this is my like greeting card cartoony style, Martha's. I draw like this when I'm goofing off and just messing around. And believe me, I watched a lot of those '90s cartoons you're talking about. I've worked in some different styles over the years, like for Wally the Green Monster or the Animated Adventures TMNT. So when I have to, I can be adaptable. X-Men was very creative in steering Logan from swearing a blue streak. I don't know what you mean, Pat. Was that in um, one of the books recently? 60 Days. Oh, from the 90s series. When I was a kid, I enjoyed the 90s cartoon. I know people are enjoying the new one that's on Disney Plus. I haven't seen it, but I do remember being very much alone and enjoying that show amongst fandom. There were people, my own age that didn't like that show and would make fun of it. And I think some of them were converted with this new show to go back and look at it. Larry Houston, who was the showrunner, did some really innovative stuff. And there's an issue of, God, what is it? Marvel Age, that's all about the animated series. And it was all about the wedding of Scott Summers and Jean Grey, and they talked about the episode in the animated series and how that actually prompted the Marvel people to do it in the comic. So the wedding of Scott Summers and Jean Grey happened because it happened in the cartoon series, and then there was some other stuff that he came up with, and he had done other ideas that they adapted into the books after they were in the show. One of the more famous ones, obviously, being Morph, the character Morph. Even when I draw cartoony, I'm still trying to draw like kind of believable shoes. The cartoon they didn't like because of all the tweaks that they had done. I remember that being a major complaint. I know some people really didn't like the artwork. Um, I actually thought the cartoon show did a better job with. I don't know if you're familiar with the Phalanx saga. That was a multi-part story that they did in the comics that I think just went on too long and had too many characters involved. And in the cartoon show, they obviously slimmed it down and made it just about the main X-Men characters and then the ancillary teams and stuff that had shown up. Because by then, Excalibur and X-Force had shown up. So yeah, I would agree. And I actually thought that if you look back on it for when it was pretty darn detailed. Oh right, yep, yep. I guess we'll show off the new art that I bought. And keep going. with the order in which we arrived. John Lucas and I did an art trade, and I did a Bride of Frankenstein, and he drew me a Swamp Thing. And I just love John's work. I think that he is just tremendous the way that he gets his exaggerations and detail and believability. I love his inked line. I think he's just one of the best inkers on the planet. That's true. John Lucas can be found on Whatnot. I believe it's Him What Jolts. I don't remember exactly. Let me see if I can find it. Yep. I'll put his in the chat. It's the John Lucas store, and he just churned out awesome commission after awesome commission. I was glad to do a trade with him and add another beautiful piece of his to my collection. I met Casey Jones for the first time. He was an artist on Excalibur, and he had these just incredibly tight pencil prelims for sale, and I was happy to buy one of them. And he had one of Colossus, my favorite X-Men character. It's 11 by 17 or 14, 17, and yeah, it was $60, and it's beautiful. I loved his run. I thought it was great. And then this was one I kind of bought, and I didn't necessarily know that I would grab. But Clayton Henry had some non-character pages, like there's not major characters in them, for cheap. And this was a $40 X-Men page. And I'm going to have to, I know I have this issue somewhere, but I love Clayton Henry's work. I've loved it since Alpha Flight days, long ago, or like around 2002 or 3, somewhere in there. I was happy to add it. And then this is my biggest purchase, which for, it's not an expensive page, but for me it is. But this was a Mike Wieringo Sensational Spider-Man page. And it's got a nice shot of Kazar, some shield agents, and then that's the back of Shauna while this is all going down with the evil scientists running into the woods. So got that from Matt Wieringo, Mike Wieringo's brother. And yeah, that's all my pickups. It's really mostly when you flip through them, it seems like more than it is, but there really wasn't. I didn't buy a ton of stuff. There were so many books, just miles of books. So, and I can't stop, push out John stuff without looking up. There's Joe's. I'll tweet out Joe's. Hey Daniel, I'm doing all right. And there's Joe's Whatnot page. So we're doing our goofy. Hope you're doing okay too, Daniel. We're doing this kind of goofy style for my birthday card for my mother-in-law. I don't think she watches this show, but I asked Camille, and she said if she found out she got a card this way, she wouldn't be mad. So Bruce is a little beefier than what I had drawn here. So yeah, do some of my goofy hand lettering. I did take pictures of all of my commissions from the show, and they'll debut in the recap video, but I'll post them separately as well. Drawing cards are great. I love. I haven't gotten one in a long time, but I always love getting them. So it was, they're just fun. And there's if you get good paper, like the Bristol board, you can just use a ruler and a butter knife to score it, so it folds clean. Um, Hand drawn birthday cards are great because honestly, I love getting food or whatever for gifts, but I don't need much stuff. And I keep drawing cards. I have like a little basket with them in it from many years. Although I have drawn a card for someone that I don't think they realized it was drawn, and they like threw it out right in front of me. I didn't stop them because I would have been too embarrassed, but instead I can just hold that grudge till I die. Oh, and on the YouTube community posts, does anybody look at those? I don't know. If they do, I'm happy to put it there because it's just the same content. But I'm happy to post there if people will look at it there. But I've not used that for some time. I will say when I was there at Heroes Con, people were extremely nice, extremely kind, lots of Tick fans. Um, I would say it was mostly an art show for me. I brought all those books, but I did have to bring a good chunk of them back. Um, but artwork sold pretty darn well. So like if I ever got the opportunity to do it again, I would probably bring uh, you don't have to use Bristol board. You can use a poster board. You can use anything, but that was just what I used. So I think it because when I'm gonna put watercolor on this, and the thicker paper will keep it from warping. But if you're using just colored pencil or markers or whatever, you can use pretty much any kind of paper. And this is just simple lettering. This is not, I'm not taking out the ruler or doing anything crazy. You can get it in a lot of different places. I don't know if you have Ocean State Job Lot where you are. They have it at Michael's. They have it at all sorts of places. Yeah, that's what I did with the recap video. I did get some stock music from Adobe, and we'll see how it turns out. Get ourselves our. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Confirm 05. Did I have an 05? I did have an 05. Yep, right there. Big eraser. They put the stream time in the caption or the comments. That's a good idea. I'd never thought of that. I'll have to try that. So it kind of points them if they want to watch the video or see it being drawn or whatever. That's a good idea. Thank you. When I do the video, I'll give that a try. Well, when I post it, I'm doing the video. I just have to post it. Yeah, I can't imagine. There were so many comics at that show. Action One, Marvel stuff, the X-Men stuff. So like, if you want to buy a big book, and they had plenty of dollar bins too. I just couldn't. If I had started going into them, I would have had to have shipped stuff out. We got our lettering done. Got plenty of room for people to sign or write notes on the inside. All right, let's get our little paints together. My hair is definitely brown, so got our Payne's gray here. Even with the cartoony stuff, I always go back to the Payne's gray. As you saw with the sketch, I had planned there to be a shadow here. We'll open this up so we don't get anything on the inside. My mic's a bit low, or am I just mumbling? I can do try to do go back and come back in. Thank you. We'll see how it comes out. Make like a peachy skin tone for my very paleness, because I have not been in the sun at all, so I'm very pale. Is my mic still low, or was it just because I was mumbling? Just a little bit of yellow ochre. I don't think that's ochre, but we'll see how it works. How does that look? That looks pretty good. We're just winging it. They don't have to be, the most accurate colors or anything. We just need it to be cartoony, believable, and fun. Fun is the ideal way. I never liked watercolor pencils. I've always enjoyed just doing the traditional. I don't usually use the cake. I usually use tubes because I think the color is more vibrant, but and this is going to be a really simple coloring. This is not going to be doing layering or anything like that. But This paper is actually mixed media paper that I'm using, and it's what Strathmore made to replace what Bristol used to do. I talked to a person who worked for Strathmore, and Bristol used to be more like this and thicker, but they changed the Bristol and they created this product to be for if you love to use markers or watercolor or whatever. And it handles the liquids very, very well. Really simple. Oh yeah, the tiny detail bits. That's when I get out the tiny detail brush. That's what we do here. And for this piece, I'm really just leaning back on, like you mentioned, my knowledge of cartoons. So like the shorthand for glasses is just to make them blue. So that's what we'll do. Think back to what was the Sidekicks character? The turtle guy from Rocco's Modern Life. That was one of my favorite '90s cartoons. My dark brown hair color. Norbit, something like that. Get our silly looking sideburns in there. I would say my sideburns are silly, but it's just. Yeah, watercolor pencils are interesting. Maybe you might like them, Daniel. What they do ours is kind of like colored pencils, and then you can go back in and add water, and they act kind of like watercolor. Sometimes you'll be able to create cool textures. Um, yeah, they're just a neat thing to experiment with. Rococo. My wife's hair has got a little bit more red in it, and then a little bit more gold. There we go. Camille doesn't wear lipstick often, but it's nice cartoon shorthand to just drop that in there. I don't know if I have any mixing ladders left. Do I? I do. Hey, how about that? almost like we planned to be here. Mix a little bit of that there. Needs to be a little bit more red. I hope we get this done tonight. I'd be happy if we did. There we go. That looks pretty good. Because we're also going to use that red on my shirt. I've got a shirt on right now that's blue, like navy blue, and has little stars on it. So we'll draw some little stars in red. Not many. There's a lot more on my shirt, but we just need to show it off as. Gives you more control in trying to do washes of real watercolor. You can layer them into regular map colors. Yeah, I mean, you can do a lot of stuff with them. I mean, I prefer layering with the paints. I just think people get ahead of themselves, and you just got to slowly build it up, just like an oil painting or whatever. Because like a lot of the times, I'll lay down, the shadows as you've watched on this channel, and then I'll layer the color on top of it. It's the same way a lot of people will color an ink wash drawing. Oh, I forgot to put the label on the pad. That's okay. We'll get to it. We'll get there. Got some blue. Light blue. And this is just a really simple watercolor. I would feel bad even calling. This is just for coloring a drawing, so like it's not even a painting or anything to that level. You can hear Bruce outside. I think he wants to chime in on his likeness. Yeah. It's a little too much paint. And then we'll take that blue and we'll mix some of this dark blue into it. I think this is ultramarine. And I think one of the disservices that these different palettes will do for you is they will not give you as much control over finished colors based on their palette. That's a good navy blue right there, I think. That'll work. I do wish I had a paper towel on me. Yeah, and I think you can get some for not very much. I mean, you don't have to buy the high-end, what you call it, Faber-Castell ones right off the bat. Find yourself a nice little, you know, pocket set. There's a nice khaki color for my ugly pants that I wore to work today. I have ugly brown shoes. So we have to do some ugly brown shoes. They're nice shoes. They're comfy shoes, but they're just brown shoes. I'm not sure where they would be at Michael's, if they would be in the colored pencil section or they'd be in the watercolor section. I'm not sure on that one. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they make all different brands. What is it? Artist Loft is the Michaels brand. I've used their stuff for some things. The only thing I wouldn't recommend of theirs is the paper. I've used their watercolors. I've used all kinds of stuff over the years. Their brushes. Oh, 40s. Yeah, looking into the stylings of the time is fun. I think that's one of the more fun things about doing those throwback stories is looking at architecture and clothing and stuff from the period. Yeah, I think we'll give Camille a green dress. Hopefully she won't be mad at that. If I was spending a lot of time on this, you guys have seen how I would layer the lighting and things like that. We're just not. This is a greeting card, so we just do fun, simple colors. I just gotta make sure I have enough of this green for Camille's dress. Oops. I have to go back in and put some of those stripes back in. I didn't mean to do that. Some people are afraid of watercolors, and I wholly admit I've been using them a long time, and they do take practice. But I just think that they're a more forgiving medium than people give them credit for. Everyone says they're like the hardest and unforgiving, but I think I just think that that's a lot of reputation. I think they are easier to use than people say, especially if you're a cartoonist and you know how to simplify and have inked with a brush before. That's another thing that is kind of a lost art. I did it for many years before I switched to using one of those pocket brush pens, going back and forth to the inkwell. You know, and you'll notice I'm not even cleaning my brush in between stuff. I'm just going in and diluting. You need to get another drop of this skin tone. I'm glad I didn't get rid of it because I missed Camille's neck. Add just a touch more brown to this orange. Oops. Gonna take a little bit of this red, add some water to it and make it a pink. And we need just a little more red. That looks good. Actually, Bruce's collar is green. We can use a little bit more of this green. Drop it in there. We should just have the shoes match, right? That's the way old comics and cartoons would have done it. They would have picked one color as the supporting color. I think we need to make some purple, or I've got some mixed purple, so let's save ourselves some. You folks know this is what I usually use. Are these tube watercolors, and they're just a wonderful, wonderful source for color. And I could have swore I had a purple. we go. Gonna have to get some more, running low. I don't know why I'm running low on purple. Turn this. I'm going to use the purple for the ground. I mean, just a little bit more than I would like to use, but it is what it is. It's way too dark. Should have just gotten just a tiny touch. I'm going to put this in a bag because I've got to do more watercolors soon, so hopefully we can save using it, and I think there'll be a use for the purple. Normally I'd use like a syringe to pull the water over because it's faster. It's faster, it's easier, saves time. There we go, that's a nice soft purple. And when you lay down that Payne's gray, you just put your next color right on top of it, just like that. And it'll help unify it, which is a nice, makes it look like you planned it from the beginning. And I'm not doing big washes on this, so we'll just add ourselves a little bit of water. Grab some more water. We'll just tone it out towards the top. When I say tone it out, that means I'm actually diluting the pigment right on the paper. Pulling around. Just add a little more pigment for the foreground. You have to let it completely dry, and you can use it for light and dark colors. You just go right over the top of it. Makes you look like you're using your color theory and everything. And you can keep going back on top of it, and you can actually pull up pigment. Just add a little water. There we go. It's got a nice, easy purple spot. I feel like my doodle pad should be. I don't have a yellow doodle pad, but I don't know if I have the color that my doodle pad is. I think it's actually like a sky blue. We could try just a little bit of this blue and see how it looks. Let me just put just a dot of that purple in there. Just a dot. That's close. That's close to the color of my sketch pad. That's not a bad idea. Yeah, that's a nice technique. Now let's get some of this magenta here. I think that's what we're going to make the background. See how nice that magenta is? And then we're going to do the lettering in yellow. So it's nice and bright. It's a happy card. We want to make a happy card. And I'm going to use the same technique I used earlier where I add some water to the paper as I'm using it. That little right there is just using my finger to pull it back. And again, that's just one of those little fixes that you learn how to technique you can learn how to use on your way. And I'm not looking to make this super smooth. I just want it to be bright. And I might add a little bit of yellow to the background. But now if we're going to make the lettering yellow, I won't do that. I also gave up on like trying to be perfect with my watercolors and just accepted that some of those mistakes are just part of how I interpret things and how my skill meets my dexterity. And that's where like some of the physical limitations happen. I could never throw a ball 90 miles an hour, and there are certain painting techniques that I'll always be not as good at. But I hope when I'm older, I hope I get to be old, and then when I'm older, I have time to paint more and just paint pictures, not necessarily cartoons all the time. We're going to be doing a lot of watercolor on the stream over the next couple of weeks, and we do have the 200th episode coming up. So if anybody who's a regular wants to pop in and say hello during the stream, uh, you know who you regulars are. You're welcome to. I would send you an invite, and you could hop on with your cell phone or whatever you like, just to say hi. Um, or if you wanted to draw, I mean, people are welcome to come on and draw because it is live drawing after all. I'm going to try to reach out to a couple of my friends and see if they'll do it. Yeah, I ran into so many people. I got to see my friend Daryl Banks. I got to see Yuko Smith. I got to see Pat Broderick, who I hadn't seen in a number of years, at a show. Most comic artists do shows, but obviously we don't all do the same shows, especially if we live in different parts of the country. I just love that magenta color. I think it's terrific. And, we're going to need more yellow than that's going to... Oops, I missed a couple spots. That's what happens when you're not paying attention. There's our yellow. Of course, I bump into it, spill some paint. Maybe we can do a what do you call it? A high-speed time lapse of this drawing, and that can be part of her birthday present. Probably should have left Darcy white. Oh well. Too late now. All right. Just let that dry for a little bit. And we're going to go back to our, we're going to add a drop shadow to the lettering just for fun, just for funsies. But we'll let it dry for a little bit. This paper absorbs the water color really quickly, but I just want it to be a little bit lighter than that. Not a heavy drop, just a little nice. It's too much, too dark. So add some more water to it. That looks good. And I'm just putting it right on top of the other color. Like there's nothing in the books that says you can't do that. Too much paint on the brush. Then you empty the brush out and you can pick it up again. That's the beauty of one of those, again, another one of those little tricks that you learn over the years is you can pick up the water. It's usually why I have a paper towel with me because it's a better tool for that. It's good for picking up mistakes. And you can see the difference of when you put Payne's Gray on top of a color versus when you put a color on top of Payne's Gray, is that when you put it on top, it neutralizes the color behind it and flattens it a little bit. Uh, when you put something on top of it, it'll actually continue to have that color energy from the first, excuse me, from the top pigment. All little tricks from painting for going on 20 years. So, and this is not a complicated or fancy drop. This is just a simple little one to give it a little dynamic to the lettering. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to make it fit perfectly with the shape because the way light works, it can cause shadows to change and move and do different stuff. So you can have some freedom to do that. And I do have gouache here. I just don't think for this it would have helped any. It just would have made me fussy. And I think we're just gonna add a couple of dots here or there, and I think we're in good shape. Inside of Bruce's mouth. He's got a little gold medallion. There we go. He's got yellow eyes. All right, I think we're done. It's a very simple, easy birthday card. What do you think? Well, thanks for being with me tonight. Like I said, later in the week, I'll be posting that video that's the recap of Heroes Con that I edited and put together. And thanks for hanging out with me tonight. I hope you all have a good weekend. And yeah, I'll see you next week for episode 199. So everybody have a good night, a good weekend, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.